Everybody, thanks for coming. Thanks for taking time out of your busy undergraduate lives to come to the poster presentation prep session. I'm Zachary Idala. I am the Vice President of the Executive Board for NRHC, and here with me is Dr. McMillan, who's one of our faculty reps on the board as well. So I imagine that all of you have had a poster presentation accepted, so congratulations. We're really excited to see what you all put together for the conference. And so really the purpose of this little session is to give you some pointers for how to put together a poster and maybe some of the mechanics and what you might expect. So just real quick, by a show of hands or a thumbs up, and if you don't have your camera on, how many of you have been to NRHC before or any other kind of academic stuff? Oh, good. Okay, good. So you're probably all new to poster presentations, and that's fine. So I'll tell you all a little bit about how I envision a poster, and I'll give you some examples, and Dr. McMillan will give some examples as well, and then we'll be happy to field any questions that you have. I will preface what I'm going to talk to you about with the condition that I am from a science background, and so is Dr. McMillan. So the posters, as you probably realize, are not only in one particular genre or field. And so I'm going to try to be as broad as possible, but unfortunately the only examples are from the sciences, but I think a lot of the basics are going to apply. So let's talk a little bit about what to expect in a poster presentation and where you're going to be doing that. So poster presentations are where you will, on a large piece of paper, put the entirety of your project as a visual in a large room with hundreds of other people who are also presenting posters at the same time. They are, by definition, a little bit less formal than you would expect from an academic style talk or panel, what we call it, panel presentations. The way it basically works is the poster session will be set for maybe an hour or so's worth of time, maybe a little bit more than that. And people will all be set up at the same time to present their posters, and people will sort of work their way throughout the room, looking at your poster to talk to you a little bit about your project. With that in mind, it basically means that you have a very relatively short period of time to get your point across, and it's intended to really be more conversational and informal. So it's an opportunity for you to engage your audience in a back and forth rather than they stand there, you throw a bunch of information at them for 5 minutes, and then they walk out. You should have maybe 30 seconds to maybe a minute and a half of things that you probably want to talk about and highlight on your poster, but always want to be giving the opportunity for the folks who are there to see your project to ask questions and create a dialogue. And that's what makes posters really one of the, my opinion, formats to give a presentation, because it invites feedback, generating ideas. You get the opportunity to network with people, your other students, faculty who might be coming around, people who have graduate programs or post doctoral programs and other things like that, just by networking with people. It's a really great opportunity to get to know your audience a little bit more than you would in any other place. So with that in mind, when you're putting a poster together, you really want to focus as much as possible on the visual elements of your project to the best that you can, rather than relying on a lot of text. And that would be the same certainly for other projects. But you're going to have a large piece of paper, and any kind of text you put on is probably fairly small. And so you want to be able to minimize that as much as possible if you can. Of course, that changes from. So what I'll do is there anything that you wanted to add to that sort of overview of how a poster presentation works, Dr. McMillan?
Not yet. I will say that some of your words are disappearing. Is anyone else hearing that? Yeah. So, we can kind of fill in, but I think we're missing a little bit of what you're saying. So, yeah. So I think
I'm sorry.
No problem. Do you want to, I guess I would give just a quick overview of what you just said, just to make sure everybody got it. But,
Sure.
you know, the poster session is a time when you will be standing there with your poster. People will come up and talk to you. You'll have a quick moment to talk to them about the main focus of your poster, and then it'll be some idea exchange. And as Dr. Iles mentioned, it's really a nice place for you to network and talk to other people. So it's a great way to start if you haven't started. And thank you all for texting in or chatting in where you're coming from. So this is quite a diverse group, and it's awesome to see that. So go ahead, Dr. Ayala.
Okay. So I've shared with you my screen. You should all see PowerPoint right now. So this is an example of a poster that I put together a while ago. And one thing you'll notice, and one thing you definitely want to do always, is make sure that your institution is highlighted. So find out where you can get access to your college logos, because every honors director, every faculty member, and every other staff and faculty and administrator at your college absolutely wants to see that on your poster, so that your institution gets the recognition that it deserves. And so those are usually pretty easy to come by. Ask pretty much anybody who works at the institution, and they can point you to that. But really, I'm not gonna like give you my poster right now. But really, what you can see here is, because I'm in the sciences, there's a lot of data to be here, and really, what I would have tried to do when putting this poster together is make sure that the important visuals that I wanted to show were being were for people who perhaps were walking by and not paying that close attention to what I was saying. They can sort of look at the poster and say, oh, that looks interesting. I also am interested in birds. I'm also interested in measuring different nestlings for growth curve, like that. People get a sense of what it is you're doing just by walking by. And so what I've done here in this poster is I've sort of split up my project into basically the main sections that you would find in a longer write-up of itself, but minimizing that to be as much as possible. References small, so they don't take up a lot of room, but large enough so it's the magnifying glass. I really wanted to see that kind of information about, what animal I was studying. In this case, eastern phoebe, which is a small songbird that lives in the eastern part of America.
The last minute or so is do that again.
So did you hear me talking about birds?
No, that's kind of when we lost you.
Eastern phoebe, right? So this project was on. We were interested in looking at how building a new nest can have energetic costs, and how it can make it difficult for this particular species to create offspring and have reproductive success. And so what we did in this particular experiment was, because this species is what we call double clutch, meaning they'll have 2 breeding attempts per season, we knocked down one of the nests right after their first attempt to see if making them build a second nest had any kind of energetic costs. And the way we sort of measured that was to look at their babies and see if they were necessarily smaller in the second clutch after using their old nest, creating a new nest, or having abandoned their after the first breeding attempt. And so we were able to make some comparisons there. What we found that was larger babies in the first clutch, and that was irrespective of whether or not they built a new nest. So it didn't look like these birds were paying any energetic costs. The reason I went through all that with you was basically to show you 30 seconds to a minute to get your major point across, and now allow your audience member to ask any point, this thing, or on the nests, or what other kinds of projects are you working on in this. It's really a pretty short elevator, 30 seconds, 1 minute, going through the major points of the project. So I sort of went through my summary bullet by bullet with the text in there to sort of support me if I need to reference anything, or if someone had a more specific question that I didn't really in my overview.
Yeah, and I would add to that the probably the most common question you're going to get is just, what did you do? And
Yes. Yes.
what you just heard is exactly how you want to go through this. And what you noticed is that he went from one sort of picture to another. So the text is there, it's lovely, but what you really want to do is have enough data and pictures to drive the whole thing. So you can just point to, as he's talking about these birds, nest down in the bottom left, he'd be pointing there. This is the bird up in the top middle, right? And here's the data that we discovered in the, this is what we did. This is the data we have. So that's how you derive that whole conversation about a poster, is literally through the pictures you have. So the text is there in case somebody truly wants to read it, but really it's about what you have as pictures. So, that was a beautiful job of describing what you did. Good job. I think he's had some practice.
I've felt a little rusty on that one, but what I will tell you is that whenever I go to a poster, I literally almost invariably will say, tell me about your project. Yeah. So it really is not up to you, but for you to have the opportunity to discuss that. And what I will tell you is, if you're feeling a little nervous, that's totally okay. Everyone feels that way, even people that have been doing it for a long time. But I've been to NRHC many times, and I can tell you and will tell you that everyone to a person is incredibly supportive and there to really hear about your project and learn a little bit about it. No one's there to judge you or make you, that doesn't necessarily not make you feel nervous. I totally understand that. But no one is there to cut you down or tell you about things that you're wrong or anything like that. It's a very supportive conference, and we really like to make that a focal point, no matter the type of presentation that a student is giving. So certainly keep that in mind.
Okay, we lost a little bit of that, but I think we got enough.
We love you and we want you to do well, and we will support you to do that.
There you go. So another comment I want to make is, and you have another example?
Yes, I do.
Zach, throw up another one, because, and I have some examples too, but one of the things that I've really encouraged my students to do is bullet as much as possible and minimize the number of words you use.
Yes.
And then the other thing I want to show, Zach, is how you make this the right size.
Yes, I can do that. Can you see the new poster now?
Not yet. I'm not.
No. Oh, okay. I have to switch. Let me. I can show you in here, because this was in PowerPoint, how you can change the. So a lot of you will be building these posters in PowerPoint. You don't have to, but a lot of you will. At least that's how I always was doing it. So see how in the design, I'm in the design tab here in the upper left here. Over on the right hand side, you'll see something called slide size. Does everybody see that? Just nod if you can see it.
Yeah, you might have to move your windows or something to get a good look at it.
How's this? No?
Yep.
Click on that and you'll see the two usual ones, but if you want to make it a custom size, you can by clicking on custom, and then you can literally make it however large or small you want. So this particular poster, when it was put out, was 48 inches wide by 36 inches high, which coincidentally is the maximum size for the posters at NRHC. All that information is on the website. I can do that in just a little bit. And you can just, so whatever size. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, and I was going to say, for most large format printers, 36 is the widest you can get. So you couldn't have one of these dimensions more than 36.
Oh, really?
Yeah, at least unless you've got a very, very large format printer. But the ones that I think it's 36 is the width of the paper.
Oh, yeah. Well, this one ended up being, I don't know how I got it done, but I ended
up being 48. Because you have, it's 36. One dimension is 36. As long as one dimension is 36, it doesn't matter.
Got it.
Right. Okay. But you can't have a dimension that's 48 by 48 without having two sheets of paper. Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
So the biggest issue here is you can't just open a PowerPoint slide and make it. You must set it to the correct size. Yeah. Because a PowerPoint slide is meant to be shown as a slideshow, so it's very small, and it will definitely mess you up. So this is the number one way that my students have screwed up posters without knowing. Yeah.
Yeah, because then you go to print it and it's like this big.
Right. And you wait a minute. I just put all this effort in and it's that big. Yeah.
Yeah. And you will have to, so some institutions might have an on-campus printer that can handle this. Other times you'll go to Staples. And Staples can bring it with you on a flash drive. I don't know if people do that anymore. Either email, sometimes you email, most of the time you just email. It's been a long time since I've had to do that. So.
Does anyone have questions so far? Could you confirm what size the poster is supposed to be? So that's online, but it's 36 by 48, right? Zach?
I'm going to share that with you right now, so you can see it.
That's the largest. You can always go smaller.
Yep. Here I am at the top. I'm at the Northeast Regional Council 2023 conference. And if you go down to presentation and strands and click there, you're going to end up here at presentation formats. And if you scroll down to poster presentations, all of that information is here. So you're going to need to bring a trifold poster board, and you're going to mount your poster on that. And the poster should be no larger than 48 by 36.
Don't forget to bring clips of some kind.
Bring clips or
these guys are great if you can see from my in my camera.
Yep.
Those ones work. But there are other ways you can fasten it. Just be prepared to fasten it to your poster board and bring your poster board of some kind. It can be trifold. You can certainly try to bring a bigger board, but it depends on where you're coming from and if you have room.
Yep, I'm going to copy and paste this link into the chat so that you all can see it. In case you didn't catch it, but you pull down to print. I'll show you one other poster, and then Professor McMillan, if you have another one that you'd like to share, you absolutely can. One more. What was it? This one? Yeah, this one. Let's try that one. This is another one that I did. Here we were specifically looking at, this was back when we didn't know that almost every animal except humans could see ultraviolet light. So we were looking at ultraviolet light sensitivity in a number of different species, specifically in birds that lay their eggs in the nests of other birds. And we wanted to see whether these birds could use ultraviolet reflectance as a parameter to lay eggs that are their own versus those make decisions about whether or not to allow an egg to hatch in their nest. And so we did some measurements of the eggs themselves using something called a spectrometer, which can actually measure color as it reflects off an object. So we were able to look at the different color spectrum that an egg was kicking back to us, and then map that onto their visual sensitivity onto a phylogeny to see how this evolved in a number of different species. So that's the long and short of it. But I won't bore you with the details. But again, there's other birds. That's always nice. If you have a study species, definitely include a picture of your study species. If you're super cool and you get a picture of yourself doing something interesting in the field, definitely get a picture of yourself on there if you can. Any other kind of visual aid that you can add always really makes it come alive.
Any questions?
I think this is more of a square, looks like. So different conferences and different requirements for their poster sizes. But for us, it's 48 by 36.
Right. Matthew, that's a tough question because for audio, this is going to be a room with a lot of people and it is very loud. You will have a lot of trouble playing audio at your poster. At least that's my thought. Do you have any other thoughts on that?
I have seen people do it. So you mean you're going to be competing. I mean, think of it, it's going to be in one of the largest rooms that the hotel has, because there's going to be probably at least 100 people. I don't know if we have exact numbers off the top of my head of how many people are going to be giving poster presentations. It's quite a few, I mean, many tens, if not more. And so if you have audio aids, you can bring, if you have a laptop that you could, or a Bluetooth speaker or something, but on the other hand, on the other side of that is you also want to be respectful of your neighbors because they're also trying to make presentations. You're all presenting at exactly the same time. So people who happen to be congregated around your poster. So you don't want to be, blasting audio so loud that the person can't get their point across. It's a balance. I wouldn't say you can't bring something like that. We want you to be able to. Headphones is a good idea.
It's a good idea. I'd bring some
yeah.
wipes so that you can wipe it down in between people, just for courtesy, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Or like if you have a link that people can go to, if they have their own headphones, a lot of people carry, their own headphones with them. So if they can access it real quick and just pop their headphones in and listen to it, that's totally fine. Yeah. However you want to do it would be fine, as long as, you're mindful of the folks next to you, and otherwise it's cool.
Other questions? You guys are great, getting great questions here.
Hi, I have a question.
Sure.
Go ahead, Amber.
What is the layout that's best to use for a poster board?
What do you mean? What do you mean by layout?
Section-wise, like the summary, the introduction.
Well, it kind of depends on what you want to do. You've seen 2 posters already. Let me show you 1 or 2 of mine, and you can lay it out however you want. The best way to manage it is, for example, if you have a summary, don't have an abstract. If you have a summary, you might not need an introduction. Minimize the amount of text. That is the thing I could say the most, is just, you don't need a lot of text, and every poster I'm going to show you has too much already.
Yeah, mine too.
Right, and right, Zach was saying the same thing. Too much. So, minimize the amount. I'll show you one that I think has at least a little bit less, but usually you have to have something that gives you the background. So it could be a summary, an abstract, or an introduction. You decide, depends on your field and what you do. You need methods. So you need basic, very basic, does not need to be detailed, because you can tell somebody what you did in detail. So all you want for your poster is to help guide you through the methods. And I'll show you one where it's completely bulleted. The methods are completely bulleted. The first one I'll show you is not. And you need your results. Generally, that can be done completely in graphics, I'm hopeful. And you need a discussion of some point. And again, that can be bulleted. You can just, what are the main points that you got from this study, whatever the study is. Those are there really are 4 important issues, right? An introduction or an abstract or a summary. That's 1. Methods, very brief. 2, results, very brief. Well, doesn't have to be brief, but very graphical. Hopefully not too, if anything, bulleted, but not a lot of just, you don't want paragraphs, and a discussion of some kind. It depends on what, if you're not doing a research project, which some of you may not have an actual research project, then it depends on what you have. And then that's completely up to you. There's no guide for something that you're just wanting to show people information, right?
Yeah. And it can also differ from discipline to discipline.
Correct.
So we're working out of biological sciences or psychological psychology or neuroscience or whatever, may look very different from a history poster.
Right. Let me show you one that can you guys see that? Oh, not yet, because I didn't hit share. How's that?
Yeah, there we go. Perfect.
Okay. So this is a student who was doing, we worked on hellbenders, which are these aquatic salamanders. And the reason I'm showing you this one is, one, she does a pretty good job of not having a ton of text. This big open space is not ideal, but you try to work with that. She's got lots of pictures of herself in the field, which I think is really, nice and dynamic. Her results are all kind of in the center, depends on what you like and how you want to do it. And then she's got some, pictures on the side, and she presented this at our student research and creativity celebration. So she put that up in the corner, and you could do the same thing. You could have NCH and NRHC's, logo up there in the corner too, if you want to. And then we're Buffalo State. So that's what she had. And let me pull up another one. This is, oh, and by the way, you might have noticed on that one that there was an acknowledgement section. So you also may want to include, who was involved, who do you need to give some kudos to for their help in if they aren't an author. You wouldn't recognize a non-author. Here's another one of my posters. This is a student who, hold on, who had done a behavioral work with hellbenders, same organism. And you'll notice with him, you know, his materials or his materials and methods are pretty bulleted. So gives you very brief, his methods are extensive, but he only needs this much information to help somebody get through it. Then he has in the lab part, the behavioral part, he turned the methods into basically graphics so that it's much easier to talk to somebody about it. You can't describe this behavioral thing. He needs to show it. He has his objectives in just a couple of bullets. So again, this gives you a little different way. This case, he wanted to give some background on the organism, but bottom left, again, bulleted with a map, you know, some ideas because it fit what his approach was. And notice that he doesn't have any discussion at all, which is fine because he can discuss what they found. And actually, I think this might have been he hadn't even finished the project at this point. So some of you might be in that point, right? You might be just talking about what you're going to do, and that's fine too. And then
that's common in posters too.
Exactly, especially at something like NRHC, which is, you know, your first shot out there. So that's okay too. If you don't have results, you can still make it look really cool and you can still talk about what you're doing.
Yeah. Can I add one quick thing? I appreciate this poster's use of negative space.
Yes.
So
yes.
what I mean by that, if I go back to look at my old posters, I crammed as much as I could, which can make them look too busy. Yeah. So if I could give myself some constructive feedback, my former self, I like this project has a lot of, it's not too much there. It's just a nice balance of not trying to put and making more readable.
I completely agree. And all of my feedback to myself is too many words, too much crammed in there. I can't even tell you how many times that's been the case.
Yeah, because you know you're a lot of it. At least I can go back from, because the posters that I showed you were from when I was a graduate student, and it was mostly because I was afraid that I would forget what I was going to say. Exactly. I put as much text there as possible so that I had something to rely on. And as I've gotten farther along, I know now that if I were crafting any of these things, I would eliminate at least 50% of the pieces there.
Right.
And you know your stuff. You know more than the person in front of you, because you do. And
you can always bring cards. Like if you to get away from the stuff on the poster. I'm totally with you on this. Bring cards with prompts if you don't know, or bring a written piece of work, and you'll find you never look at it. But if you have to look at it, it's there, and it'll help you feel good. I'm just going to show you one more because, again, seeing different ways of doing this, I think, helps you realize that there's 1,000 million bajillion ways to do this. There's no right or wrong way to put together a poster. So let me make sure that's the right one. I think it is. Can everybody see this one? Let me see if I can turn that into a bigger. There you go. So this one again is this one we were doing some bacterial work, and again I think it has relatively good use of negative space too. This is another one where I think we didn't overdo. Notice the results in discussion are just bulleted. The materials and methods are bulleted. The abstract is this big long thing across the top. Again, you know, there's lots of ways you can lay this out, but the project overview is completely in a graphic so that we can just type somebody through. We did this, then this, then this, then this. Depends on how you did it and what you did. And then some pictures that help describe the things that we found. So again, just, you know, other ways, other sizes, other colors, lots of ways to do it, you know. And I will say that one thing for me always is do the color scheme you want and then print it out on a small paper and see if you like the way it looks, because it doesn't always look as good as you think it looks on screen until you've had a chance to look at it.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, other questions? Well, first of all, have these been helpful? Have you learned the things you need to learn so far? Okay. Any other questions? You guys are asked fantastic questions so far.
I have a question. I'm not sure if this is going to be too broad or like we're in too far of a group, but like what are some questions like we should be prepared to be able to answer?
Do you want me to take that on?
Go for it,
You know what?
sure. Go
I'll
ahead.
start, and then if you think of others, you add in. First, certainly, what did you do in that 30-second, and then, if you did a research project, they, explain this graph, tell me more about what you found here. And then I would say the one that students may be least prepared for is, well, what does that mean? What does that mean to whatever you did, right? So that last poster I just showed you, E. coli, we found E. coli signals from all these different areas around this area in the outer harbor of Buffalo. And what we didn't really say is exactly what it means. And what it means is that it's not a human source that is causing the bacterial problems in this one particular area. It's actually a bird source. And what does that mean? Well, that has political issues. So that research was actually funded by our congressperson in Washington. And what we discovered was not what he wanted to see. And so they never talked about it again. But that's what we discovered, right? So what does that mean? Well, here's what it really means. And, and politically, this is interesting because it's not a human source and we can't actually mitigate it because these are birds that, we've built a sanctuary for, and gosh, that's an issue. And, but it's interesting because we can actually determine what that signal looks like. So, so those are the kinds, like, that's the what does this mean? And from scientists' point of view, I'm sure you would agree with me, Zach, is that they always want to know, well, what does this mean to humans? Some of you will be doing human research. Awesome. They will like to know that. But when you're doing scientific research, it might not matter to humans, but we have to come up with a reason.
I always struggled with that one. With color vision and birds was always a tough sell.
Right. Hellbenders and streams and what they eat. I don't know. Right? It doesn't mean anything to humans, but okay, I'll come up with a reason. I'll come up with something. Yeah.
I would
Anything else that you can think of?
What's next? What is the next research part of this research project or next step of this research project? What it means, and then what next? Another. But
yeah, what's next? And also, what are you doing next? Are you graduating?
Yeah.
Are you going to be continuing to work on this research?
Mm-hmm. People want to know about you too. Again, it's a dialogue that you'll be building with your audience. People will want to stay and talk to you for many minutes, and they may want to hear about what you're up to. And they might say, "Oh, we have a graduate program in this thing. You should consider it. And I know a faculty member that so and so. You might want to look into their lab." I mean, this is the kind of conversations that you might have. And other people are going to be like, "Okay, thanks, bye," after 30 seconds, and that's just how it is. But that's part of the fun of it. So yeah, for sure. Be prepared to talk about what you are interested in beyond the project as well. Right? Of the project.
Great question.
Yeah, thank you.
Other questions? Are there any concerns you have about doing this poster session that we might not have covered at all? Like, I don't know. Who are you going to be next to? I can't answer that question.
We don't know yet.
At least we could tell you we can't answer that question.
Right.
What else? What other questions do you have?
While you're thinking of some, I would also suggest when putting these together, I imagine most of you have a faculty mentor who helped out with the project or your honors director. Talk to them about how, I don't know. I mean, I can't speak for every honors director and every faculty member, but certainly if a student wants to come talk to me, I'll sit down with them and show them some more examples, more related to your field or that have been coming out of our research group or whatever it is, so that you get a better sense. Lean heavily on them if you can, or if you know other fellow students who have done similar kinds of presentations as part of honors work or elsewhere, talk to them too. Google can be your friend as well. There's plenty of lists to be found. I think, does anyone know Canva? I've heard of, they might have templates. Canva is an online visual aid generator, graphic design. They do all stuff. They have things. I mean, they can be a little less content heavy, but they can help with design aspects. The point is, don't feel like you are the only person and the first person to ever do a poster, and feel like you have to like read it. A lot of this stuff has been done before, and people are almost going to be willing to help you.
And Jaden, I missed your question before, but suggested font size.
Oh yeah, good idea.
What do you usually use, Dr. Idala?
Let me
Idala.
look.
I keep
can
saying
tell-
your name wrong. Is it
That's okay.
Idala?
Yes.
Okay,
Um,
got it.
So
Idala.
for the first one I showed you, I had a font size of 30, and that was on a 36 by 48. That was probably, again, that was way too much text. So I would probably cut that amount of text and increase the font size, to be honest, if I could. But that's for after I build my. So I think
That
you're going to want to make it legible from 4 to 5 feet away. Right? Does that sound about right?
Yeah. Yeah, it looks like the one that with the last one I showed you, our font is 36. The one that Dr. Idal mentioned, the negative space, that font was 30. So yeah, I agree. And I also pay attention to whether you use a serif or sans serif font. What do you tend to use?
What I showed you was back in my serif days, but I'm all about the sans.
Yeah, so
I was using Times New or whatever it was, but now I try to use sans fonts, Arial or
Calibri, Arial, right?
That kind of stuff.
I do think that this, sans serif, which means not the extra little things on the letters, tends to read a little better.
Yeah.
So just pay attention to that, and don't do. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say I think they're also ADA compliant.
Yes. Yes.
Whereas fonts you're not.
Yeah, and don't do weird fancy fonts. That's not a place for it. Poster's not a place for it. Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Okay, did I miss anybody else? I think that was those. Any other
people
questions?
do QR. If you have videos or any other kind of other visual aid, QR code, link them on your poster. That's cool stuff now. I mean,
Perfect.
back in my day, we couldn't, but we really couldn't because that stuff didn't exist. But now it totally does. So if you have other kinds of, and that also could go for the audio links as well. If you have other things that you want to share that are related to your project that you can't reasonably put in a 2D graphic, link. All that stuff is there, and everyone's going to have a smartphone. So feel free to be as creative with that kind of.
We used to sometimes just print small versions of our poster. That's one thing that you could do if you really care to do that. Another option, and you may not have a business card, but you could have, your email and whatever else, you want to share with your audience on something that you can hand out if you find it. If you're getting ready to graduate and you're thinking about graduate school, this is a time you should be thinking about impressing potential PhD programs, so or master's programs. So that's never a bad thing to do either.
Yeah. Links to your CV or whatever it is.
Yep.
Maybe not on your poster, but
Correct.
you can have the whole poster is just like your CV.
This is me.
Maybe not. Yeah.
Awesome.
But does anyone else have any other questions or thoughts, even just about the logistics of how the conference runs beyond the poster session itself or anything like that? We're happy to answer those questions.
It might be an odd question, but this is my first time doing a conference. So what is the best attire wear? I know jeans and sneakers is not appropriate, but what is what to wear mostly?
You'll find that I guess I'll start and then Professor McMillan can contradict me if she wants. Different directors will have different professors, different honors directors will have different expectations for what they want their students to do. I tell my students business to business casual is perfectly acceptable. So a button down and slacks, pants, shoes, is certainly acceptable. A blazer on top of that would be great. I don't expect my students to wear ties. You certainly can. But you want to definitely avoid t-shirts, hoodies, jeans, sneakers, except for the Friday Cityus texting when the one day of the conference is devoted to going and exploring the entire city. And of course, you're not going to want to be in, heels or uncomfortable dress shoes for walking in Pittsburgh, but for any in-conference event, business. What I'm wearing right now, I would be fine if one of my students wore that. I'm wearing a cardigan with a button down, and you can't see my pants, and I'm wearing chinos and boots. And I'm fine with that. I've had other honors directors say, no, it has to be a suit, and that's how they do it, and that's fine. I mean, so talk to your honors director, but anything business for me, business casual, what you would wear to an interview, what you would wear to an office. Typically the way I do.
My only addition to that is skirts, for example, are welcome. They're not required. I would definitely not wear them on Friday when you're walking around. No heels on Friday. You can wear heels, but I would say, you're not going to a club. So think about that, right? You want to impress people. So, wear, business casual is great. Jeans for me are fine as long as they are not ripped. If they're nice jeans and you would wear those nice jeans to, an event of some kind, that's fine. Just don't wear the ones with big holes in them, because that just sets you off as somebody who's there for, it just feels differently, right? So think about how it looks and feels, but you want to be in something comfortable too. So don't wear something you've never worn before.
Sure.
And feel
be comfortable, be who you are. You can certainly be who you are. Like dark jeans, maybe not super light acid wash or anything like that, maybe not, but dark jeans, black jeans, dark blue jeans.
Yeah, or pure white jeans, like
or
those
white jeans,
colored jeans look good, as long as they look good. Yeah. And I would agree. No, not t-shirts with certainly not t-shirts with things on them like bands, but if you wanted to wear a t-shirt from your school on those days that you're not presenting, that's good. Yeah.
I mean, some people can pull off a dark, like plain t-shirt with a blazer on top of it. I mean, just I don't know. Nice. That's all.
Be thoughtful about. I think that was a really good question. Be thoughtful about what you're wearing. Yeah. But you don't have to go way up. But I would agree. Talk to your honors director and to the other people who are going in your school to make sure that you guys are kind of on the same page.
And other students in your honors program who have gone in the past can probably give you some fashion tips too.
Yeah.
They've seen what other students do.
There is what is it called, Zach? Gala?
The student gala.
Yeah.
It's a dance. There'll be a DJ and music and food and stuff like that. Some students get more dressed up for that if they want to, but it's not an expectation. It's themed usually. I think this year's theme is I think they're doing like a red carpet theme.
What? A red what?
Red carpet.
Got it.
I don't know. We haven't put together the specifics of how that event is going to run, but some students really get serious about the theme and dress up on theme, but it's certainly not an expectation. And students that aren't, they're allowed, they're not ostracized. They up to the party. It's just a party,
right?
And you'll have fun. So do whatever you want for that.
Yep. Anything else? That's a great question is there anything else about the meeting or the time that you're there that you're not sure about either? That link to the NRHC conference has a conference at a glance, so you can see kind of what's going to happen. We do not yet have, the detailed conference schedule yet. We're still working on that, so that will be coming out. So keep an eye on the website over the next couple months. But that will give you a feel for what's happening each day. Other questions? All right.
Well, thank you, everybody. Appreciate you stopping by. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. And we'll be happy to answer any questions that come up. Thanks again. I hope this was helpful. And looking forward to seeing you all in Pittsburgh. Be sure to stop by your posters.
I just put my email in the chat. I know
Oh,
you
yeah,
have
I'll
other
do-
people.
I will do that as well.
Yeah, I'm sure you have other people to reach out to, but we are more than happy to answer questions. So feel free to reach out to either of us. And yeah, I hope to see you at your poster. It'll be great.
Thank you very much.
All right, thanks
Thank you for
everybody.
being here.
Safe travels. See you in
Thank you. Have
Pittsburgh.
a good one.
You too.